How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to UAP Tuesday here on Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff. This is our Tuesday show. It's our long-form podcast. So normally on this channel, you can find Monday through Friday UAP news. And yesterday, I know I missed a video, and it's just moved. Once I get settled, the Monday through Friday consistency will be back, I promise. So there's a lot that has been going on this week. And one of those things is Ross Coulthart was talking about, general, that there is evidence that the U.S. knows about alien life and has known for a bit. And he discusses that. And that's what we're going to discuss on the show here today. There's some stuff with Danny Sheehan and the Lue Elizondo book. There is going to be a UFO day, by the way. They're going to talk about that. The show that I was almost on, that I was cast on, that I couldn't do, the TMZ show. They're up and running, and they're starting to talk about things, and how important is it that they are? We'll discuss that. The Soul Foundation had a disturbing document about what actually could be the health risks of UFOs. Nobody's really talking about that. Everybody's talking about, hey, it would be wonderful. Look at that. It's like that scene in Independence Day. Oh, hey, take me. And then it's like, yeah, well, what about this? Take this. And we'll discuss that. So all of that and more on today's show. So if you're brand new to the channel, you've never been here before, do me a favor. We are so close to 30,000 subscribers on this channel. If you hit that button, you'll get these updates. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're everywhere that podcasts are found. And we, as I said before, we do 2 videos a day. Well, no, that's not true. We do a video Monday through Friday. It's early, guys. I'm almost done with my coffee. So hopefully that kicks in. But Mark Reilly is with me. It is Down to Earth, UAP Tuesday. Here we go. All right, Down to Earth, Kristian Harloff, UAP Tuesday, and joining me as always, Mark Yodius Reilly. Mark, what's up?
Hi, Kristian. How are you?
Tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. I guess I can't really complain as much. You have a better excuse right now with the little one, but
yeah. Well, yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. It's a joy. Every day it's something different, but nonetheless a joy.
Nonetheless. So yeah, man, and as we continue each and every week, we've got some more of these stories that are coming out, more clips. There is something else, that I didn't even mention in top of the interview, or the top of the podcast, is that we keep talking about the hearings, right? I'm talking about when they're going to, and you get conflicting reports of, some people say it's July, then it's August, then it's September, and it just goes, and then it may be after the election. And there's a new report actually saying just that. And let me read that first before we get into any of this other stuff that I mentioned. And check this out. All right, so from Ask a Poll, once again, Matt Laszlo doing wonderful work over there, is saying the House UFO hearing round 2, and the quote is, I think there'll be the next UAP hearing. This is from Representative Glenn Grothman, who chaired Oversight's David Grush's hearing. He tells us, with the legislative session winding down and the election ramping up, Grothman says the earliest would be September or after the election. So you can go and check out that full piece by Matt. I put the link in the description there. But all right, Reilly. Yeah, I know, right? I feel the same.
No.
I feel the same. But can you tell me the shake of the head and what you're thinking.
Well, it keeps going. At one point we heard July, then we heard August. Now they're saying September, and then maybe after the election. It's going to be after the election.
I think it's definitely after the election.
I don't think this thing is happening anytime soon, September or otherwise. And, it's going to be a wild ride for that election. And so there's going to be a lot of, I think, tabled conversations until they figure out what, when the dust settles. It's unfortunate, but yeah, it's not good. I shake my head because it seems like they're always changing we're going to do it, in July or, most likely August.
Well, let me ask you a question right now.
We're going to do it in September.
Let me ask you a question right now, and I bet you I can change your opinion with what your answer is going to be. When do you, great mug, by the way, when do you want to, when would you want this hearing?
Oh, God, that's a good question. I don't know. I'm so conflicted because part of me wants this circus that we're about to enter to just come into town. Let's see the elephants and the clowns and the trapeze artists play, and then move on so we can focus on other things. But then again, wouldn't it be fun if something really substantial dropped from a hearing that would color the election, that would make something pop, that would possibly force our candidates to, acknowledge UFO disclosure, UAP existence, disclosure, what have you. I can't answer that right now. I'm going back and forth.
I'm twisting your arm. I'm twisting your arm. Well, you pick right now. I said, Reilly, when you want this hearing, you say.
Well, I want it now. Okay, give it to me in July then,
right.
Because my interest in the UAP phenomenon goes
outweighs
beyond the election.
Yes.
So it's just, okay, could it help? Could it help bring something, humanity together, that we work together somehow? We reach across the aisle and we go, hey, this might be something. We don't know. I heard some whistleblowers.
I think all that stuff you just said was pretty accurate in that what you want, the circus, all that. But I think that's ultimately the biggest problem, right? And I actually, if you asked me, twist my arm, I would tell you February is my answer of why I would want it in February now. Because
put it all the way to February, huh?
Yeah. Because the reason why I would want it, selfishly, would I want it July or August? Of course. But for the best interest on getting things done, unfortunately, because of the children that are running around in Congress and the way that this country is at the moment, look at Burchett right now. Burchett, who went from being, oh, that's my buddy over there, that Moskowitz guy, and that's my buddy over there, to saying now that he's a Democrat. They're so in Red Sox versus Yankees mode right now that they, no matter what it is, they'll find a way. It's like, oh, that ice cream is green. No, it's not. That ice cream is blue. What are you talking about? It's clearly green. No, it's blue. And it's like
motion to vacate your spot now.
All the way through until November. That's what this is going to be. So it is the circus, and they won't be able to agree on anything. They won't be able to talk about anything because they're going to be at each other's throats until all the way through. So no matter trying to get their person in office. So until that's over, they're not going to be able to shake hands across the aisle in the way that they did wonderfully. It was there is no topic that you can, and I'm talking about, I'm not sure you can find some begrudging things that they had to come together on, but this was not one of those things. In July of last year, it was the first time in I don't even know how long where you had Democrats and Republicans together, sitting together. They looked like they were colleagues and not enemies. That has not been the case recently, especially when you look at the stuff that they're trying to do. And I don't think that it is going to behoove anybody if they try to get this thing done in July. If they try to get it, first of all, if they try to get it done in July with Gillibrand doing it, and the DOD and Arrow thing, that's ridiculous. Yeah. If they try to get one that's just a USO hearing and it doesn't have all this, and it's just Republican heavy, and it doesn't have anybody else involved in it, then that's not going to do anything for anybody. And then if it's in September, they're pushing it back more. It's like then you're right before, and then it becomes so politicized, and people will use it in one way or another, and blaming people because this happened or that happened. And I mean, again, I used Tim Burchett as the example. When the second he says, well, he's a Democrat, it's like, what in the world does that have to do with anything in this topic? What does that have to do with anything in this topic? It was so, nothing. And he's doubling down on it now when he talks about it. I want to, and when it's UAP stuff with him, I want to hear him talk all the time. I don't want to hear him at all until this election's over. I want to hear nothing from him. I want to hear nothing from Schumer. I want to hear nothing from any of these people until this thing is over, because their intent is not information to get to the public. It's getting their person into the office.
Correct. Everything you said and more. And I'm going to go back to like maybe a few shows that in our early days when we first started, before the hearing came out, where some big stuff dropped. We said, what do we do? What do we need to do? We need, if you're up there, guys, come down in the middle of Times Square, okay? Land that thing, get out, take some pictures, take some selfies with some people to get these people to understand that you're out there.
I don't know. After that report,
event.
After that Soul Foundation report, I don't know if I want them landing in Times Square.
The Soul Foundation report is crazy, and it's not surprising, but when you see it on paper, literally a piece of paper that they put up, I'm like,
Yeah, we'll talk about, and we'll discuss that.
Yeah,
we'll discuss that.
Yeah,
in a
but
second.
I mean, a shared event that you mentioned, Independence Day at the opening, where it's with the Souls Foundation's report. Oh, take me, and then
right.
Okay, correct, all of that, but some kind of proof. We say it over. I'm a broken record, but that's the only thing right now that could possibly make people look past the election, look past the fighting, look past all the things that they're doing right now in this circus that we are calling it. And I don't think it's going to happen. So February, sure.
Yeah,
let's do February.
It won't happen until.
All right, millions around the globe and maybe even beyond are celebrating World UFO Day. Okay, July 2nd is the anniversary of the 1947 crash of an unidentified flying object in Roswell, New Mexico, which the Army later said was a scientific balloon. 75 years later, the government still says there's no evidence of non-human life. But that narrative has started to shift since News Nation's bombshell interview with UFO whistleblower David Grush.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
This jaw-dropping News Nation exclusive leading to congressional hearings and a federal UFO program. A member of the intelligence community and a pioneer in getting to the truth is News Nation special correspondent Coulthart. Sir, I love when you are on the show because each time it kind of gives me chills because part of me wants to know, the other part of me is like, I don't want to know, Ross. As someone who has spent decades investigating UAPs, how has the perception of UFOs changed over the last year, specifically after David Grush's claims went public?
Good morning, Nick. Well, I can tell you there's been a real drift in the public's skepticism about the government's claims on UFOs. A vast majority, nearly 66% of Americans think the US government is concealing information about UFOs, and that's from a very recent poll. And I think there's good reason for that skepticism. I think even senators, senior people in the Defense Department and intelligence community are now saying quite openly that they believe there's a lot more to be revealed by the US Department of Defense, the intelligence community, and indeed by the White House about what the government really knows. And I don't think the public's buying it anymore. I think the public is basically ready for answers. And frankly, a lot of people are telling me they want this to be an election issue.
They clearly want it to be top of mind because you just mentioned that poll showing that 65% of Americans believe intelligent life exists beyond Earth. Why are more people taking the conversation more seriously, Ross? Is it because we're talking about it more, or is it because they have less faith in maybe political leaders always telling them the truth?
I think, to be honest with you, I think Americans have every reason to be skeptical about their government. They've been lied to in the past as a pretext for going to war. And I do think that the evidence is increasingly suggesting that the American government is, and incredible as this may sound, it is concealing its knowledge of a non-human intelligence. And as you know, I'm hearing this not just from David Grush, but from multiple sources who are allegedly working within what's called the Legacy Program, which is a secret program being operated by the US government involving the retrieval of non-human technology. And I have to say, yes, this particular day that we're celebrating, World UFO Day, it honours the memory of a day, July the 2nd, 1947, when the Roswell crash happened. But I think the interesting thing is there's been a lot more crashes since, and those recoveries, those retrievals of craft continue to this day. And it's incredible as that may sound, there are now very authoritative people in the defence and intelligence community saying that the government needs to come straight about this, that essentially it's not being honest with the American public. And I think if you look at the legislation that's been drafted by the Congress demanding that the various arms of government disclose what they know about non-human intelligence technology, which is an incredible thing to be written in legislation. If Congress is prepared to write that, it means it knows something. And it does. I can
Ross,
assure you it does.
It's important also to mention, though, even though you spoke with David Grush on the record, you had other sources telling you this information as well. So we will continue to follow this, Ross, because you know we love this stuff. Ross Coulthart, thank you so much, sir.
Good to talk to you, Nick.
Okay, so there's a lot there, obviously, and as you mentioned, it's been now the anniversary of Roswell when this comes out today, and then all this conversation that he's having about, I think it plays back in, Reilly, to what we were just discussing, and that's how people want to make it a presidential part of the conversation, part of the election conversation. I don't think that they will. I don't think that anyone's going to bring it up. I don't think the people who are running it are bringing it up. I can't even imagine that, if you look at, there was no way that Jake Tapper or Dana Walsh were going to ask anything about UFOs. I don't think they're going to do it at all. I don't think it's going to come up. I don't think it's going to, unless somebody within the community is able to ask a question at certain things, whatever town halls or whatever it might be. I mean, Trump's talked about it. He spoke on an Impulsive. He spoke on that show. And I just feel like it's not going to come up, as I mentioned, once again, until the election's over. And I think that what he's talking about and the idea, this is something, if it's a show like ours, it's not one of these things. If you're just stumbling upon YouTube or whatever it is, and you come across that clip and you're like, oh, UFO thing, I haven't really paid attention to this at all. And it pops up. I was just talking to my buddy that I went to school with since like the first grade, my buddy Chris. And he's very interested in the topic, but he doesn't follow up on it in the way that we do. But if I sent him that clip, he would absolutely believe it, first of all, because he believes in this stuff. He believes that other things are happening. But it would also be like, whoa, there's this push to get this information out, that the government definitely knows about it. To him, he'd be like, because I know him, he'd probably be like, no shit. That of course they've been hiding stuff back. But to other people who are just kind of browsing around and you see that, this is a big piece of news where it's like, yeah, the government has stuff. There's so many people that are trying to get them to say, just release it. And I think, again, to reiterate, between 2025 and 2027 is what people have been talking about. 2027 is that magical date everyone keeps throwing around. But what do you make of this stuff that Ross is talking about on that particular clip, Reilly?
It's not surprising for us that follows this with a fine-tooth comb, combing over everything that we can find on what's been said. But you bring up something that's interesting. It's like bringing somebody from the outside that is interested in this stuff, but has missed it all because of XYZ, right? Election stuff, news, mainstream media doesn't really cover it. Dogs on surfboards that take, the last piece of news on ABC World News, whatever it may be, right? I always bring my dad into this because my dad is a big UFO guy. And when I told him that there was a hearing, that they were trying to get disclosure with whistleblowers, with people that, have some knowledge. David Grush, I mentioned him. My dad was like, what? Huh? I want to show him that clip. Right. Because I think that would kind of blow his mind and open up a conversation. And the one thing that I was looking at with that clip is the mention of there are other sources for him, for Ross.
Yep.
And that, David Grush is not the only one. That's interesting to me. And the main thing for me is that it's continues to be this thing that pops in my head all the time. Baby steps. We're just slowly trudging forward, getting people to finally go, huh? What? Look out from the phone. Look out from the circus that's in front of us with the election, whatever it may be. That there is somebody probably new every day catching this and going, wait, what? There is? You know what I mean? And that's good news. It's just we want it faster.
Well, it's the opening question of what the anchor asked, and it's like, how much more people really talking about this since all that? And the answer is a lot of people, and there's more of an effort to get more people out there talking about it, and you have a group that is certainly coordinated in the way that they want to put their information out and get their information out, and have representatives like Ross Coulthart being able to do what he's doing, and other people. So it is very important, and is also why we keep beating the drum about more outlets we wish would cover it, especially on the more in the mainstream side of things, and why it was just an absolute given. Vegas odds win a lot of money if you put as much as you want. That they weren't going to ask that question because there's no world that CNN is covering this thing. There's not.
No.
Unless it's on one of their online things, kind of buried on an article, then maybe they will. But until there's something really significant that they can't say, well, we would just look irresponsible if we don't cover that, which I really think that they do. But in more so where it's like, wait a minute, how do you not cover that? Then that's a problem. But I think that everything that he's saying, it just leads up. It does lead up to that. The other side of that is the frustration side, which I talk about on this channel every day. And that's like, yes, we have heard, if you're covering this topic, that there are other witnesses. There are other people that talk about this legacy program. There are other people that continuously can also say what Grush says is true, that before Grush was even around, that there was this legacy program. There were all these things. You hear it all the damn time. But as you mentioned before, you can say that a million times over, like, oh, just wait. It's coming. And it is very fair to say it's coming, because it very well might come in 2026, 2027. Does not mean that those people, even novices like you and I, have been only following this thing really, as deep as we have been for like the last year, that we're not allowed to be frustrated. Of course we are. The people who've been following it even longer can be frustrated. Of course we can, because it's like, yeah, Ross Coulthart's going to go out there and go, my sources say, and I believe him. But the thing is, it does, but you hear him say it all the time. My sources say, I know this, and we have this, and it's like, I believe you, man. But this is only so much that I can say, okay, well, what else? And that's what it comes down to, is what else? When there's proof, we know that there's proof that the U.S. government has been holding the information. Well, how do we get that proof out there?
Yeah, how do we get that? And that's something that has always been a part of our culture as Americans, that you go to like JFK, and you have so many people with that great podcast that Rob Reiner did, where he's just like that. When that stuff was coming out, there was a big contingent of people going, wait a minute, what are you hiding? What's the government hiding just with that? So I think that there's always that kind of doubt in our government with really big news and really, news that's like not just black and white, but gray and the different people, the different sources. But what occurred to me with this when you were talking is that they keep saying in the magic number, right? 2027. And I think about where we are now versus, and I can think in the future, 2027, and this baby steps that I keep bringing up. The idea that there's something more happening every day. Somebody is able to stumble on News Nation and see this, or maybe there's another, shot that goes viral that it was, what is that up in the sky? Something literal and tangible that we capture on film, or maybe there's more classified material that could possibly be revealed of a UAP.
Right.
Is this, are we being played? Is this part of the plan now? Because something occurred to me there. I'm like, wait a minute. If 2027 is the magic number, that gets a lot of people on board by that time. We got about 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. 2.5 years to have these baby steps, add up
control
to
disclosure.
A football field of people who know this thing now. Mm-hmm. And they go, okay, here you go. And then people are like, and that's the release, that's the rollout program.
Well, that's certainly what they pitched at the Soul Foundation. Like, that was,
and made me think of Soul. Exactly.
Yeah, when they had that whole layout on the board, the thing that was leaked, and inside of that they showed the plan of what they wanted to do. Now, a lot of that was contingent on Schumer Round's bill being passed in the form that it was, and it wasn't, and that set back things way more than they, I think, were anticipating. They really thought that thing was going to go through in the form that it did. But they still have a plan, and they still are very much. And then you look at, we mentioned last week with Jason Sands, and how, like, if you go off of that plan, they're like, cut it out, right? And I do think that there's also, there's a positives to that, because I think there was positives of like, hey, we have an idea in the way that we want to do things. I also think there's a negative to that, and I mentioned that in one of the videos recently. I think that you got to be careful, because you don't want to be hypocritical, meaning that the whole reason that they're fighting against the system is because why should one group get to control the narrative? Why does one group why are they able to say, hey, we have this legacy program, we've been doing it for years, and we don't want you to know things, to where this other group is going, no, we do want the people to know, and we're going to tell you the way that we're going to do it. Well, hey, we're going to say this our way on that. No, you got to do it our way. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Why are you different than the others? Now, the answer to that question could very well be because if you go out on Twitter Spaces and start doing that, no one's going to take us seriously. So follow the plan. But the other side of it is like, if there's other podcasts and there's other people talking about things, like, don't say, well, we're the high elite people now. We're the only ones that can put out the information. If you're not part of our circle, then don't do that. That's in the same way, because I've seen that happen with just people inside of this community in general that are like, like trying to hold everything so close. And it's like everybody, and I tell people every time on this channel that if you are interested in this particular subject, you should be following everybody. You should be commenting on everybody's videos. You should be. It's about getting the information out in general. That's the most important thing. And these groups should not be so hypocritical as to say like, no. They're doing this. They're doing that. Don't listen to them. That happens behind the scenes, obviously. And I try not to get involved in that silly drama anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it goes against every part of who I am.
Right.
And also I think the bigger theme here, and that's, bringing us all together to talk about an existential threat or gain for humanity, whatever it may be, whatever is out there. We are trying to work together. I mean, if a UAP came out of the sky and suddenly ray gunned everybody standing under it, the world would react, and we would react probably coming together and be like, oh, okay, we got to take care of this now.
Yeah.
It is about coming together and going, there is something bigger than all of us, bigger than social media, bigger than, did you hate the last Star Wars episode of XYZ, whatever it may be, it's bigger than all of this. And to draw division within that theme, it seems against the core belief of this.
Yeah.
Well, we should be working together to whatever it may be.
I think there are a lot of people who are
out there.
I think there are a lot of people who are, for sure. And
absolutely, there are.
Yeah,
there are.
And I also think that it's just a matter of like, and the thing is, you can't, and rightfully so, you can't get all of the information from the people who are trying to get that disclosure out there, because they don't want to. They don't want to show their cards, and they don't want to show the I don't want to say the enemy, but like the people who are trying to stop it. They don't want to show them what they're working on and how they're going to do it, because as we saw with that Tim Burchett interview with News Nation, I think it was, or The Hill, I can't remember, when they asked him about how come there weren't more whistleblowers at the last hearings, and he flat out said because NASA went to them and found out who they were and told them not to do it. And so, of course, he's closer to the vest and not saying these things. So anyway, what say you guys about this report from Ross Coulthart, or what he says, what we just said in the reporting of how it's happening, the disclosure process? What do we think is going to happen? Do we think it's all just information that we've heard, but what's next? Or do you think that this does move the needle, as we've said many times on this show? We're going to move to the next topic. And as we mentioned on the shows beforehand, the way that we're able to keep on going is for our sponsors, the wonderful sponsors that we have. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Joy Mode. Here we go. Guys, let me tell you about Joy Mode. So what you don't want to do is, because everybody worries about, oh man, when it comes to whether it's getting older or whether it's just in general with getting in the bedroom. You're like, oh, I don't want to have a bad sex experience. I don't want to do that. But guess what? Gas station pills, you've all been standing around going, oh, those might work. They don't. And you don't want to do the prescriptions either sometimes, man. They got bad results. Feels like a hangover. So the good news is you got Joy Mode, and Joy Mode is safe and it's backed by science. It's like when you go to the gym and you want to have extra electrolytes or whatever it might be, a good kind of workout shake. It's the same thing. You feel good. It has nothing to do with, oh, I can't do it anymore. It has nothing to do with that. It's like, yeah, I'm working out. I'm going to the bedroom. And it works for cardiovascular health. Did you know that? Yes. So it doesn't matter if you're happy or unhappy with what's going on in the bedroom right now. Perform better. Joy Mode Sexual Performance Booster. It's a pre-workout, but it's for sex. It's designed to support that quality down there, guys. The firmness, the sex drive. So these are the game changers. All the ingredients have been assessed in peer-reviewed journals. All the ingredients have been studied and researched in humans. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not going ever. I'm not going to do those over-the-counter drugs anymore after doing Joy Mode. Not doing it. So the good news is it's small enough to just put in your wallet. You can take with you on the go. It's the perfect travel companion. If you go to usejoymode.com, you get 20% off with the code DTE at checkout. That's 20% off and free shipping, but use that code DTE at usejoymode.com. It's great sex solved naturally. All right, thank you to our friends over at Joy Mode. I'm telling you, check it out. It's worth it. They're great, and it'll help you. So, and speaking of which, I did a thing. I still, it's hilarious though. I still don't, and I guess maybe just because we've been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
I did a post yesterday, and I asked people. I was curious. I was like, okay, we were going to do either like a Patreon or a YouTube membership. What would you guys want? And some guy goes, "Oh, you're charging people for what's usually free. I'm out." I'm like, never said that. What people don't understand still to this day is that what a Patreon or a YouTube membership is, it's not like this stuff that's on. It's not changing. You literally could come to this channel doing everything that you do normally every day. And you come, I want to watch a news story. Great. I want to watch the podcast. Great. No one's changing that. What we're offering, what we would offer if we're going to even do it, is that it's just extra content. It's like, okay, we're going to give you an extra episode that normally we wouldn't even do, or we would do like maybe some live, Q&As and things like that. Like, what are you doing? You're just taking donations. What are you talking about? It has nothing to do with it. It's like nothing here would change. Nothing would change. It would be exactly the same. And you either charge like, no, I'm just going to do the way that I've always been doing it, or go about your day. It's like people still don't understand how it works. Even like 8 to 10 years after this type of stuff has been put together. It's baffling. Anyway. All right, let's get to the next topic here, which I'm going to bring up right now. All right, this one to me it's close to the vest, and I'll tell my story about it afterwards. But TMZ is covering UAP stuff now, UFO stuff, and they covered a few things. They've showed videos from the JFK stuff before that airport. They've talked about it, but they're doing a full-on show about it now. And here's a clip from that show, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
Something is up with presidents and UFOs. George W. Bush was so sketchy when he was asked about that. Bill Clinton said that there may well be aliens out there. Barack Obama said he couldn't explain some of the things that he's seen when it comes to unidentified flying objects. This is an Australian journalist who has a real interesting theory about why Donald Trump is scared to talk about UFOs.
He's scared they're going to kill him if he reveals what he knows. That's what I've been told. You have a situation where your potential president is terrified of speaking about the UAP issue because he's scared they're going to knock him.
I want to know what's going on. Would you ever open up Roswell and let us know what's really going on there?
So many people ask me that question. I won't talk to you about what I know about it, but it's very interesting. But Roswell's a very interesting place with a lot of people that would like to know what's going on.
So is that Australian journalist right? Because he is just waffling on this.
I think it holds water because we know that this dude, Trump, never met a secret that he didn't want to spill.
We also know that when he doesn't know anything, he always says interesting over and over again.
Also true.
And more importantly about that, though, the source, right? So Ross and I are good mates.
Ross is the guy that we just saw, the Australian journalist.
Ross Coulthart. So Ross and I talk all the time, and when he says, I have people and sources that tell me this and that, I trust Ross. And presidents all the way back to Eisenhower have been allegedly briefed on this sort of thing, and you can tell it when they're in these interviews that they're being, stopped at some point. I can't go any further.
If we were visited someday, I wouldn't be surprised. I just hope that it's not like Independence Day.
You're right. Every president since Eisenhower has been briefed on something. It may be that we don't know very much, and that might be the essence of the briefing, but that definitely within the community, national security community, there is a concern.
Why can't they take a stand? I mean, if they have some document that shows definitively there's no such thing. It's easy to say there's no such thing. They all waffle on this. Why?
Bush is very tongue-in-cheek. I think Bush is having fun with it.
Did you go through the secret files, the UFO documents? Because if I was president, that'd be the first thing I did.
You know, it's funny. My daughters asked the very same question.
They did?
Yeah.
Would you be allowed to tell your daughters what was in those files?
No.
You would not?
No.
Now that you're out of office, you can do anything you want, right?
True, yeah. But I'm not telling you.
You're not telling.
I think that he thought it's a moment of being kind of charming and kind of tongue-in-cheek.
All of them are this way. And it's like everybody kind of wants to know this.
This is too binary. You're making it sound like they do know or they don't know, but the worst scenario is that they don't know.
Why is that the worst scenario? I cannot imagine a country that would want to inform possibly the most public figure of the government and tell them something that they could be susceptible. These are people who are going on late night shows at times.
They say, okay, I want to see the file. No, I'm the president. I want to see the file.
I'm not denying there could be a separate agency that might have intelligence about alien life. Hypothetically, let's say that's true. The person that you probably don't want to be informed about that and have a slip, a human error of releasing that on hot mic, would be the face of the country.
So some bureaucrat knows, but the president doesn't?
I would say so.
It's a national security clearance issue. Each one of these presidents is sworn in, at a level of TS or above. They're not able to say much about it. And if they did, they'd be compromised.
If they admit, like, oh yeah, I've seen it, yeah, I think there's aliens, are they just all afraid to look crazy?
Or get more questions.
It's media training. It's excellent media training.
Yeah, they can't discuss any classified files. It could be about anything and they can't talk about it.
They're all angling away, but it's not aliens, it's defense secrets and that kind of thing.
But also, the world isn't just America. Has any other governments or presidents said anything in this? We only give attention, so.
Going back to the presidents being coy, could it just be they don't want to cause mass hysteria? Because if they do say, yes, we have evidence, what happens then?
Okay, I'll buy what you're saying. It's easy to stop the hysteria if they say, I've looked at it, everybody's looked at it, and there's no such thing. But if there is such a thing, then there is a reason to not cause mass hysteria. Absolutely. So my feeling is they know something about life beyond us. If it wasn't so, they would just say it.
Totally agree.
I think so. With great knowledge comes a lot of responsibility, and I think the past presidents have done a great job with their media training. Trump doesn't care about media training, and so I think that his nervousness comes from the fact that he does know a lot. If there's extraterrestrial life that we do not know how to combat, everybody is going to freak out. So I think it comes with a sense of security to protect the American citizens.
Fine, so what you're saying is they know something exists beyond us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so there's a lot to talk about with that particular clip. Now, the first thing I will say about that clip is, and Reilly knows this, I was supposed to be on that show. I was cast on that show. I was cast on that show. I was made, and I had a wonderful.
Didn't work out, did it? Huh?
Well, no, it wasn't. The only reason it didn't work out is because I moved to New York. They shoot in Los Angeles, and Harvey was great. The people, there was a few of those people that I was in the room with that got put on the show, and those are the people I thought would get put on the show. The dude who said that he's friends with Ross, I knew that guy was going to get cast on the show. He knew his stuff. And there are a few of the people I didn't see, they didn't have that former detective and the forensics person. There was a lot of just different podcast people when I went in there, but I went into that not knowing what to expect when I went in, because I had seen that. I was like, I'm not doing celebrity gossip and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I want to do. And then when they started to get into this a little bit more and talk about what Harvey has has a big interest in it, I said, this could be actually really important, because this could be, now granted, it's not Fox, it's not CNN, it's not MSNBC, but it is still an outlet that people really know. TMZ, they know TMZ. Now, the first thing they're going to have to do in the opposite, because I think this is on Fox also, this thing, they're going to have to get over the obstacle of getting past the TMZ associated right away with celebrity gossip, right?
Right.
But as they do, when you start to tune into this and you see the kind of exposure that it's going to get, this is a very important show. And so when people go, why didn't you do it? It didn't make sense for me financially for just moving to New York to have to fly all the way back to LA. I think that it was shooting 2 days after I moved. So it was just the timing wasn't bad. But we talked. We tried to make it work. And again, Harvey couldn't have been more wonderful as far as trying to make it work. It just didn't work. But what they're talking about and the things, and this is why as I'm watching that clip, as I said, the one dude very much informed, understands everything. These other people in the room, some of them have no clue what's going on and are clearly asking questions and putting the idea of the president not wanting to talk about it because, the fear of mass hysteria. I succumb to the idea more so that the president is looked upon from the legacy program as a hired gun. And they're like, well, this hired gun will be gone in 4 to 8 years, and then there'll be another hired gun in there. We're not telling them jack. So that's why a lot of times, like, they might get briefed on certain files. There might be certain things that they might know, and other things that they might have to be briefed upon. But the idea that just the false claim that the president is the all-knowing, most powerful person. It's just not the case. I mean, look at when they just try to get something simple passed in Congress. They got to go through all these different things, and if your party's not the one that is in the majority, then you can't get it passed anyway. So it doesn't really matter. But this conversation that they were having, I think, in this room was very important, more so for the mainstream side of it. But what say you on this clip?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that, well, one, there is a stigma behind TMZ that some people are going to have to get past, but I do believe this is important. This is a start. This is another baby step. In regards to the conversation, it reminds me of Independence Day. Mm-hmm. There was a moment in Independence Day when after the aliens attack and the president's like, "Oh my God," and they bring up Roswell, and that's not true. And Loja's character, Robert Loja, the general, goes, "Mr. President, that's not exactly true," and reveals information that has been there all along. And the president's like, "What?" So I do believe that they who are the powers that be that hide this stuff from the president is another conversation. But do they know? I don't know. I think that right now, if you look at the bill, like the Schumer bill, and how allegedly he was saying, "I've been talking to Biden and we got to get this going." And there's, I think they know things little about just disclosure.
Yeah, they know things in the same way there's certain, like, where Harvey was like, "Oh, the president doesn't know." No, I mean, I really don't think that they do. Not in the way that you think that they should, in the way that most people think that they should. I think that it goes deeper into that, and that's exactly what I would say if I was sitting in that room. It was like, it goes deeper into that. That if you believe the reports, or whether it comes from a Ross Coulthart or these other people, that there's this legacy program that ultimately holds the power. Now, we don't want to think that there's anybody else that's holding the power over the actual government itself. But if you listen again to people like Ross Coulthart and other people throughout the years, that, as far as this topic goes, that subsidiary thing, that thing over there, that's what's pulling the strings and covering and let you know what's going on, not the president, not the government. And is that scary? It's terrifying. Of course it is, because it's like, who are these people? Who are these mystery people? And if you start to then dive deeper into the allegations of potential murders and all these other things that have gone down, it's beyond frightening. But the other thing that stood out to me in those clips, if you notice this, and granted, it was years back, and it was before the Grush stuff. It was before people were talking about it for the last year or so, right? But when you look at, and it was mostly Kimmel, when Kimmel's talking to, whether it was Clinton, Obama, Bush, whoever it was, every single time he brought up UFO, the audience, every time. Yeah. Every time. They didn't even ask a question, and nothing was said. It was just mentioning UFOs. People, UFOs. And it was a different time, and it's becoming more of a, wait, what? And but it just shows you one of two things. One, look how far we've come, or we still got a hurdle here.
I mean, yes and no, right? We've come a long way, to get people on board. Again, we mentioned it with the back on that story with Ross, what he was saying when he has other sources, and people could see that report from News Nation and go, "Wait, what?" But they're always, we come back to this, Kristian. There is a stigma behind this that I think for certain people who have zero knowledge of this. Chris Christie and that early Republican debate. "Oh, I got a UAP question." Like, what is it?
Right. But that's a great call, by the way, because if you look and just kind of referencing into what I just brought up with how it was, how it is. Let's say that those Kimmel clips were, I don't know, pre-2017. Let's just say pre-2017.
Yeah.
Christie answered the question pre-2017. He followed it up on Twitter post-2024, or 2023, I should say. Because once he got hit with, this isn't the anymore, people are taking this a lot more seriously now. He's like, what I meant was, when he realized, I wasn't expecting that kind of pushback.
There's actually a large contingent of people that believe this and want disclosure and are there and taking this seriously.
Yeah.
And so if you, for lack of a better term, poo-poo it or go, you're going to get some noise, which is great, which is another step forward for this community and what we're trying to do here. But there is that stigma, man. It's going to be there until we can break the walls down.
Yeah, bigger information needs to come and more coverage.
Bigger information, more whistleblowers, get a hearing,
and more coverage.
Get a hearing.
And way more coverage on it. And that's why I think that as much as I know, like I said, when you're linked to celebrity gossip and those things, TMZ covering this is very important. It's very important, and I think, and that's why I was going. I mean, if I was in Los Angeles, I 100% would have done the show. I 100% would have done the show.
That'd have been great for you and us everybody. It would be so much fun to see you do that.
But it's less about that. I mean, clearly, that it would have been good exposure. It would have been, like you said, good for the show, all that stuff. But more so because when I went in, I said, how are they going to approach this subject? Are they going to approach it with the hand over the face and the laughing? Or are they going to take it seriously like a newsroom where they're trying to have conversations about what the hell's going on? And that's exactly what they did in that clip. That's exactly what they're doing in general. And I think it's important. And I give them props for the way that they handled it. So who knows? Maybe one day I'll be able to do a guest spot on it. But for now, I will be watching the show and I root for them because it's a good thing. And they're not only covering. If it's the same show because I did the pilot for it. If it's the same show that we did the pilot for, they do like true crime and stuff also, which I thought which was also interesting. It's it's a bit of the other things and reports that it's way more up your alley than obviously celebrity news is, Reilly. So,
and if it's true crime, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's true crime.
I'm a huge true crime guy. Serial killers, all that. It's a thing.
But anyway, go and check it out. I like what they're doing over there, and I really appreciate the way that they covered that. Okay, moving to the next topic. All right, Reilly, Danny Sheehan, he's been on this show. He has been everywhere. He's been talking about Lue Elizondo's book forever. And a question I asked him, and everybody always asks him, anytime he's on it, when is Lue's book coming out? When are we going to get it? Because that's going to be a big, we'll be covering that thing left and right from the second that thing comes out, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the question is, what will be covered in it? Well, there's a couple of tidbits of information that Danny shared about it, and here's the clip.
What can you say about Lue's upcoming book? I mean,
I can tell you it's coming out. It's coming out in the middle of August, and that he is going to be having a major book tour that is going to be financed by the publishing company, and that there are going to be numerous gatherings and discussions and stuff surrounding basically each one of his appearances throughout the country, with people from the public being invited to come and have additional presentations made, information shared with them, and inviting them to become part of the Citizens for Disclosure. That is a major movement that the New Paradigm Institute is sponsoring. We're going to have groups of citizens in each one of the 435 congressional districts who are going to be the Citizens for Disclosure rather, and they're going to be writing letters and sending communications to their respective congresspersons and to their United States senators. They're going to be going to the local newspapers and proposing letters to the editor in support of the passage by the House of the Senate bill, in support of this controlled disclosure campaign that is being proposed by the United States Senate. That they're going to be going to their local Kiwanis clubs, American Legion posts, that their Rotary clubs, going to the local high schools and proposing school assemblies at which people can present the information that is undisputed, that is causing such a legitimate stir, at least among the people in the know, about the process that's going on right now, which is functionally the disclosure process is sort of underway, that the Senate is on board for it, the president is on board for it, and that we're just getting a pushback from the private aerospace corporations and from the deep state from the legacy group of people buried deep within the intelligence agencies, in military agencies.
Okay, so obviously a lot in there, and this book, as we mentioned, kind of leading into it, the main thing that I got out of it was August, and that he's going on a book tour. We will try to get him on this show. Whether we can get him, who knows? But we're going to try. Nonetheless, you got this book that is going to be highly anticipated. The question is, what will come out inside of it? There are rumors of, that there's going to be a lot of detailed information inside of it. There's rumors that was one of the reasons why it was pushed back, because they were like, hey, you can't put that out there. There are other rumors that, depending on who you believe, that he had put stuff in there that were from stories from other people that are like, you can't do that. That's not even your story. This is just saying all the different rumors that are out there. I don't know what's true, what's not. But nonetheless, it's a highly anticipated book. It's something that people want to see. It is going to potentially, going back to what you said before, Reilly, is this book part of that plan of leading into 2027? It's like, okay, well, look, if you're putting together this board, if you're the Kevin Feige of the UAP stuff, and you're going, all right, we've got this, and this, and at this point, somewhere in 2024, Lue's book comes out. We haven't told this particular story of this thing. People will pick that up, and once that happens, we'll see how the response is, and we'll move. Is that something, or is it's just a book?
Well, I think it's going to be something for all of us in the community, and we're going to devour it.
Right.
We talk about clipping out certain things on YouTube, back in the day, right? You take one piece and it gets out there even more than the actual video itself. Is there a piece in that book that transcends the community and goes into mainstream? That'd be interesting to see.
Right.
That'd be something that'd be a huge win if that was something where, like the 2017, release of some of the classified videos,
which he was heavily involved in. He was the one that him and Mellon were the two people who leaked those.
Right. So if we can get some, like, New York Times covers some of this to move this, like, oh my God, Lue Elizondo, this guy was blah blah blah, and now it's hitting the news wire. That's what we want, and I think it's a good chance that we could, because of his credentials, and it's just whether or not, again, I bring up stigma. Is this going to be a book that comes out and people do, it's one of those UFO books, and they just move on? That's, I don't think we're there anymore.
No, it's got to get picked up. There needs to be stuff inside of it that is very similar to what we say a million times over. Yes, like we say a million times over. It has to be something in the detail of the programs he worked in, exactly what he did, stuff to where even the skeptics going, oh, wow, I didn't realize. Let me see if I can go and investigate that. And there will be people who are going to go and obviously try to refute what he's saying. And then there's what I hope is that you get those people who are going, look, I looked into this, because what I will say is there are some debunkers out there that are just looking to spread poop on people's face no matter what, because that's what they do. That's like in the same way that there's like hate channels for like movie stuff and TV. It doesn't matter what you do. You could have an alien show up in their living room and want to have a conversation with them. You're not real. Try to take their mask off. But then there are other people who do the investigating and say, look, this doesn't seem real to me. This doesn't seem like this is legit. But wait a minute. I looked upon this, and this particular file came back, and I was wrong. This particular thing was there, and there's a little bit more to this. Those are the ones that I take serious, because I do think that you should go into anything with a skeptical point of view, because you always go, well, I don't know. This is something that I don't. It doesn't seem like it seems like people are either trying to profit off it. It seems like people are doing this. But wait a minute, what's really there, and do your investigation. I respect those types of reporters, and there are a bunch of them out there that do just that. And I hope that they would do the same thing with Lue Elizondo, and where they look at it, they look at the book, and they say, well, let me look at that claim. I've never heard that claim. Then they investigate the claim, and they say one of two things. Well, wait a minute, actually, this is what it is. And then you can say, wait, Lue, what are you doing? Or I looked into it, and he's what he says is going down.
Always ask questions, especially in this. I mean, we live in a time. Technology has gotten. Who knows? We could have clips of a president come out where he says, yeah, I just, went to the moon and walked around. And, that could be deep fake technology. That could be CGI stuff. When we talked about the UFO that flies over some motorcyclist and then these two jets follow it, it's like that could have been CGI. You always ask questions, especially in this topic.
Yeah.
Because we are looking for truth, not, this is real, and just because the internet can do that.
Right.
You could see, we saw it in the movie space. Somebody with a lot of followers on Twitter could just make up. It's like, oh, James Gunn is going to make a Guardians of the Galaxy 4 and Superman's going to be in it. And it's like exclusive. And people just buy it right away. No, do your due diligence. It's good to have a healthy, skepticism behind all of this. But, I don't like it when something comes out and immediately somebody's like, nope, that's fake. And here's why.
Right.
And they just throw it all out there at once, where it's like, no, let's look into that. There's always something about the way they handle it, whether it's like, oh, that's interesting. Let me break this down in a scientific way. Let me have an open mind, all these different things. I think that that's healthy. And I hope that whatever comes out in Lue's book is met with like healthy discussion. If it's debunked, do the due diligence. And if it's something to look into, and there's, like we were talking about, the aliens from Mexico, more data has appeared.
It looks like that's turning it around a lot more. Also, there's a lot going on with that particular topic. And even Matt Ford had posted out recently that I think there's going to be a lot of people who owe Jamie Maussan an apology, because you look at the amount of new data that's coming out. We covered it pretty heavily with the stuff with Gary Nolan last week, but there's a lot more to come to that topic for sure. I think the last thing we're going to cover today, though, is this Soul Foundation thing, because it's pretty scary, I would say. And take a listen. This is what came out. This document from the Soul Foundation. Anomalous health threats, health security considerations for UAPs. Now, this is something that the Soul Foundation, Volume 1, Number 4, June 2024. The executive summary is the United States government recent acknowledgement of unidentified anomalous phenomenon has prompted renewed interest in their national security implications. While much attention has focused on the aerospace implication of the UAP, the potential health security dimensions remain unexplored. This paper examines assertion recent UAP legislation considers hypothetical health threats linked to UAP based on prior reported incidents, discusses the challenges in detecting and managing anomalous health threats in general, and recommends strategies to improve U.S. preparedness for these low probability, high consequence scenarios. This analysis is speculative, drawing on definitions in recently proposed federal UAP legislation and a limited number of reported UAP incidents. It does not claim these definitions or reported incidents are conclusive, and acknowledges that if UAP-related health effects are substantiated, they may have prosaic explanations. However, given the potential for significant harm, the report argues that accounting for these tail risks in U.S. biodefense planning is prudent. While preparedness for unknown should not distract from higher probability health security priorities, the consequences of strategic surprise justify some proactive risk mitigation. Implementing these recommendations will require sustained high-level leadership and resources, but will leave the nation better prepared to assess and respond to all forms of health threats, regardless of origin. So in this paper, we discuss the following key findings. The proposed UAP amendment to the FY 2024 National Defense Authorization Act specifically referred invasive biological effects and biological evidence of non-human intelligence in connection with the UAP. Proactive efforts to understand the health security implications of UAP are warranted given the potential for catastrophic consequences from a genuine health threat. UAP-related biological effects can be viewed as a special case of the broader challenge of anomalous health threats, which may range from exposure to radiation or directed energy weapon to unconventional biological agents. Existing U.S. biodefense and health security frameworks have gaps in their ability to detect and respond truly anomalous health threats. We also make the following recommendations for the U.S. government. assign responsibility for all anomalous health threats to the National Security Council, Directorate for Global Health Security and Biodefense. It's just the first kind of executive summary of it all, but you read this.
Yikes.
Yeah, I know it is a big yikes, but it's like, it also makes sense when you look at, I mean, I automatically go back to, and this isn't necessarily the UAP itself, but it's like if you go back to Moment of Contact, the James Fox documentary about the stuff in Brazil and Virginia. And it's like, you know, whether if you talk about that, the cop that touched whatever was the being that was in the ship, and then within hours, entire body just shut down and died, right? You talk about you've heard about these types of things that have happened where it would potentially make sense if these other things or whatever the hell they're from, and then if you also tie it into the idea of why these things are so tied into nuclear energy, then there might be something more to that, right? So it makes sense that it wouldn't just be like, hey, let me touch the ship. That's wonderful, because you know there'd be people who do that. Yay, let me touch the ship, and it's like you don't even know what the ship is made of. You don't even know what the thing is. What are you doing? So. This is, I think, a much needed thing. And as they say inside the document, we're not saying this is conclusive. We're not saying that it's a definite that it could happen, but you got to be cautious.
Yeah, I mean, we're always so caught up on like what's out there, what is this? Let's get disclosure. Let's do that. Like, okay, and then what?
Right.
You know, this to me is like what happens after.
Yeah.
You know, because there's going to be even more questions that pop up, and yeah, you know it. I know it's the kind of the opposite way of thinking with this, but you know, H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds and all the movies adaptations of it, you know, ultimately those things are taken out by our own bacteria that we've grown immune to, right? Because the aliens themselves didn't know what they were getting into in attacking Earth. Now that is a science fiction version, but if you take the principle of that, what the hell is this thing? Touch it, die from whatever the reaction is from your body to whatever they have going on there. Advanced technology, we don't know. This is an important thing. I know it's so out there because we are on the baby steps, as I always say. And this is what needs to be kind of broached before we start really. I mean, because if something actually would land here and you know, Paul the alien steps out and goes, "Hey, everybody," you know, and then sneezes, you know, and somebody's
takes out 30,000 people.
Right. We don't know. We don't know.
Right.
So it's good to start asking questions that cover the bases, because there could be technology.
It could be anything, but you know what it also is? It makes me wonder if a document like this, to what we were just talking about, this entire show, with the idea, again, bringing the Kevin Feige Marvel side of it all, it's like, hey, we've got to, at some point, if all this information is going to come out, we also have to do the precautionary side of this, which is this. Yeah. And when they do that, it's like, okay, 2024, we put this thing out because this is going to start to come out, and we have this information out because we can be the ones to say, hey, we told you so. And this information came out, you weren't ready for it to come out, and then this happened, we told you. We have this document, we brought it up. I mean, there is those things, and it also makes sense, and it opens up that side of your brain that goes, well, yeah, of course. I mean, because you get into that fantastical kind of fantasy idea of like, oh, yeah, there's going to be these things, and we figured out what it is, and we finally found out we're not the only ones alone in the universe. But what else comes with that? Like, what else comes with that?
Exactly.
Like, so, yeah.
Yeah, and just also consider, you know, what we know right now, just like the tangible evidence that we have. Like some of those videos that were released and declassified, you know, the Go Fast, the Tic Tac. If you just start asking questions about those things by just looking at the evidence itself, you can go, man, one of our guys in a jet could crash into that one. And there's, you know, evidence that states that, you know, we've had, you know, unfortunate accidents where these things have actually hit something, and that's what some of the people testifying have said, that this is a threat to our airspace. Just literally, what is that? We have video. Yeah. That's a threat to our airspace. So just start putting that forward thinking on. Okay, well, what's in there? What's next?
But going back to the crashes, it's like an old George Carlin joke, right? Somewhere out there is the worst doctor in the world. Has to be. Process of elimination. and he's operating, and right now he's operating on somebody, right? So who's to say the NHI pilots, there's one that's great and there's one that's the worst. You letting Clyde drive again? He's flying. Last time we were on Mars, he hit 3 mountains, and now you letting him fly on Earth? So you see, he just hit 6 cows and he ran into a plane. How are we going to explain that to the president?
Yeah, exactly. You just don't know. I mean, these are forward-thinking questions that are going to go right over most people,
right? Because they're not thinking.
They're not even looking up. They're not even aware of these.
Not even thinking about it.
They're not even aware of any of this stuff that we're talking about. So this stuff is going to be whoa. But I think it's important. I think it's fascinating to consider. Because when you get past the, hey, let's get disclosure. What the hell is that? What is that? Did you see this? Did you see this tweet? This guy, he caught something up in the sky there. Okay, then what?
And what?
Like, we get the disclosure. Then we get this. Oh, we have, non-human intelligence. We have crash retrieval stuff. We have material. We have all these things. Then what?
That's the question for you guys. Then what? So put your comments in there. Everything we've talked about here today, especially this particular document from the Soul Foundation, any of the stuff that we covered on the show here today. I want to thank Mark Reilly for joining me here also. Mark, where can they find you?
Always a pleasure, Kristian. You can find me on the internet at Reilly Around, Reilly Around. See you there.
Make sure you follow me at Kristian Harloff anywhere on the social medias, and make sure that you subscribe to this channel. As I mentioned, we're almost at 30,000. We're trying to get some more guests on this show very, very soon. I've been kind of taking a break on it because with the move, but I think we're going to start getting back into it. Make sure Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, if you want to help the show out and you're able to, head on over to our sponsor, Joy Mode. Get yourself some today, and that's it. For Mark Reilly and me, we'll see you later. Bye.